It's time for Living Your Purpose, a motivational and inspirational podcast with Peter and Joyce Nielsen.
Welcome to Living Your Purpose. I'm Peter Nielsen with Joyce Nielsen, and we are happy to be here. We're enjoying the feedback, the questions that we're getting. We're now on YouTube. You can find us at Peter Nielsen or Peter's Principles, and we're getting a lot more people just interacting, I guess, because YouTube, we've never been on, so thank you for even helping us do that and getting this podcast room in our home set up. And how are you doing?
I'm doing great today. It's a beautiful fall day and there's lots to talk about.
I love your scarf.
Thank you.
I do. I really like it a lot.
Thank you very much.
You know, what we're going to talk about today is something that I think so many of us, we get in situations in our life, and if we're not careful, we get stuck. And usually when people get stuck is because they don't have a plan for their future, or they're not forgiving something from the past, including themselves. I mean, many times a person will want forgiveness from another human being. Many times in life, you'll never get that. And that person will wear that and then, unfortunately, will rewrite that character in their lives and become that victim. And I know so many wonderful people that have been through just horrific trauma in their lives. Some of them are in their 30s, some of them are in their 60s, and they just have missed out on so much life because they're not forgiving. But in Mathew 6:15 in the Bible, it says it best, but if you refuse to forgive others, God will refuse to forgive your sins. I'm not getting religious on anybody here. I'm just keeping it real. It's how I operate. It's probably one of the hardest things that I had to do in my life. When someone hurts you, sometimes you'll never have that opportunity to hear that person say, I'm sorry, I love you, I made a mistake. But you still have to relinquish that person from that emotional debt, or you will be living in a prison that you don't even realize. It's just toxic. Would you agree?
Yeah, you start to build up resentment and bitterness, and it can become all-consuming and really hold you back in every way. And for your own mental health, it's best to forgive and move forward. Like you said, even if you haven't made amends with that person, or most importantly, even yourself, if you're going over something that you did wrong in your head over and over and over, it's like you can't change the past, you can't change what happened, you can only learn from it and grow, and it could really just eat you up inside if you don't practice that.
I only know you only know what you know. So, some people may know parts of my testimony, parts of my story, but would you say I have a soft heart?
I would say so, yeah.
And
one of the reasons I married you.
And I love hard. And I think one of the miracles, or one of the reasons why I am filled with gratitude every day, is because it blows me away on how I feel our Heavenly Father healed me. I was born with an incurable condition called Crohn's. So I was, excuse the expression, but I was just ticked off. I was mad at the world. I was on a pity party, like, why me? And I was angry at God. And then on top of that, sometimes fear channeled wrong turns into anger. No one wants to beat people up, but sometimes it's a secondhand emotion out of fear. And my father became an alcoholic when he found out that I was sick, and he felt out of control. So he started picking on my mom, me, and my sister, and broke collarbones in 3 places, tried to take my mom out, gave me stitches over my eye, just words create life or death, just said many times that I was a nuisance, an inconvenience, annoying. He lost patience with me. And then sometimes in the middle of the night, he would come home drunk and wake me and my sister up and beat us up for no reason. My dad died in 1986. I got in a gang in Brooklyn, New York. And even in relationships, I eroticized anger, and I just loved to fight because I felt like I was bullied through my whole childhood. And I felt like the only safe place was not at home, but was with these guys. And some of the things that they thought were cool were getting in fights. The reason why I'm saying that is that God intervened when I got really sick and I had my first death experience at a very young age. I wanted to take my life. I was really, really angry. I felt as though that God, if there was a God, that I was just dealt a bad hand of cards. And I'm saying that because maybe there's someone that is going through what I went through or what you've been through. And all I can say is that once I forgave a human being that was my earthly father, he was 6 feet under. He died in 1986. There were times that I wanted to unbury him and just beat his lights out and then rebury him. That's how angry I was on how we were living in terror, in fear, in abuse. And all I can say, and I apologize, it's raw after 30 years because once I relinquished that emotional debt, once I was able to forgive someone that would never ever say, I love you, I did wrong, I'm sorry, my life opened up. And that's what this show is all about today. If a Brooklyn guy that was diagnosed with an incurable condition, that lived in an abusive environment, that teachers said I read backwards with some dyslexia, if I could champion my own life with God, all things are possible. So I ask you a question as you're listening to this. Have you forgiven that person who has hurt you? Or were you the perpetrator and you left a marriage? Or you betrayed or cheated on someone? Or you were the person who committed abuse among someone? Have you forgiven yourself? So many of my friends will tell me, Peter, you go to church. I'm like, I'm not religious. I have this personal relationship with Christ, and it's pretty amazing. And church is not the building, it's the people. And when 2 or more people come together, boy, oh boy, does God answer prayers. But what I will say is that many people say, I've done too bad. I've done too much. There's no way God can forgive me. There's no way I can forgive myself. That's a lie. That is 100% incorrect. Some of the most amazing characters, some of the most amazing human beings that God himself used throughout history were train wrecks, clusters, adulterers, murderers, King David. And yet at the end of his life, God said, he was a man of my own heart. He softened his heart. He was remorseful. And he dedicated and allowed God to use him for the rest of his life. Are you doing that right now? Or are you dressed in that expensive dress or suit have a nice job. Maybe you're a CEO. Maybe you're on your third marriage, and you're just keeping it in Pandora's box. You're keeping it quarantined the way that a computer has a virus. Instead of cutting the roots and pulling them out and cleansing the soil, you're just covering it up, locking it up so no one knows. The enemy knows. And the beautiful thing is that light will always void out darkness. So, I mean, I'm passionate about it. You know my story inside and out, but it's so important to forgive. It really, really is. I mean, forgiving to you, what does that mean? I mean, we've all been through a lot of stuff, but what can you tell somebody that maybe right now their hands are clasped and they don't want to hear anything about forgiveness because they've been just wronged, lied to, stolen from, betrayed, cheated on, and they may even have cancer or something. They're mad at everybody.
Yeah, when you get to that point, your heart's closed off, you're missing so many blessings in life. It creates stress and anxiety, and it really it's life altering. I mean, it really inhibits so many aspects of who you are, what you can do, how you can love, the relationships that you have. If you can there's different ways to go about forgiveness. Some people like reflection, some people do therapy and counseling. You can also practice prayer to help soothe your soul and come to peace and terms. And eventually, hopefully, it boosts like a resilience that's going to help you move forward in life. Because as long as you're holding on to that, you're putting blinders on and you're blocking everybody else out. There's like a wall up around you.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, forgiveness truly frees you from being under control of another human being or circumstance. I mean, just think about that. Usually, the buzzword of the last decade has been narcissism, where people just love to manipulate and control a relationship and just, they could turn it on, they could turn it off, but their main thing is to make you feel like a piece of garbage, not worthy, and all they want to do is control you. They don't even like you. They just want to control you, whether it's for a trophy, whether it's for, they hate everything you stand for. And all I can say is that even biblically it says, pray for your neighbor, love your neighbor. Everyone forgets the next sentence. It says, and love your enemy and pray for your enemy. Boy, oh boy, even for someone like me, man, I've accepted Christ in my life over 35 years ago. We all go through hills and valleys, detours and bumps. And I'm telling you, all the growth is definitely in the valley, not on the mountaintops. But I'm an alpha male. I wouldn't say, I'll say I do have a temper where if someone threatens my family, or if somebody is out of character, or if someone is doing something ridiculously stupid in business, stealing or betrayal, my flesh wants to immediately, my emotions want to immediately come on attack. But what I need to do is do that 5-second rule where I need to bring it to the throne and I need to pray about it. I need to literally take a deep breath and get my logic, get my mind wrapped around what was just said to me. Sometimes the best response is no response. And again, I didn't intend on talking about just different pieces of the beautiful big book, bestseller of all times, the Bible. But Jesus never one time responded to someone that cursed him, that accused him of something. He had nothing to explain. You take the power out of that narcissistic person or that person that wants to do you damage, but it really starts with forgiveness.
Yeah, and it's not, they may not deserve it, but it's not about them.
Exactly.
It's about relinquishing that control that they have over you from harboring those resentments and emotions. And it's about creating your own happiness and really freeing yourself from those chains. So even if they don't deserve it, it's not about them, it's about you, and it's about your healing and your growth and not letting them have that control.
And you know something, you just saying what you just said is a blessing to me, because this woman has been through so many storms in her own life, and sometimes I have a hard time on how forgiving she is on people that want to put strife against our family or wants to hurt her or our family. And I just am the protector, the provider. She's my lover. She's my best friend. She's my partner. She's my wife. So I immediately get all ruffled up. And then what do? We bring it to the throne. Mm-hmm. But we literally, when we first met, I said to her, I said, God chose you, and I feel like he chose me for you. But then we got to choose each other. I said, but the first thing that God's going to do is allow us to heal each other. Right? Mm-hmm. And boy, I speak all over the world. You know, I went through my theology, and I know enough to get myself in trouble. But yet, God brings me my bride. That was his bride first. She's teaching me even more how to forgive, because I watch it through you. So we're all in different parts in our journey. We're all in different, we're all learning different things. But the beautiful thing is sometimes I get out of my comfort zone when something like I just mentioned happens. And that's when God has this amazing perfect storm to not only heal us, but to use us. Because, yeah, I've been doing television and radio for, 30 something years. But God wants to teach me more. He wants to teach you more. But before he could teach you and use you, he needs to truly detox you from all the negativity, all the strife, all the hurt, all the betrayal, but most importantly, to forgive. Because when you forgive, now all of a sudden, not only have you learned something, but not only will God forgive you, but then now you're operating in such a beautiful form of grace. Grace is unmerited favor. Grace is when God forgives me. And I don't even deserve to be forgiven. That's grace. So if you can understand that you need to clean the soil underneath you, if you want that perfect marriage, if you want that perfect relationship, if you want that perfect career, and how you do it is you need to detox your own heart, soften your heart. After this podcast, or if you need to listen to it over and over again, ask God, whatever is not of you, burn out of me. whatever's holding me back on getting closer to you, get out of me. And one of the biggest things is forgiveness. I remember I was talking about forgiveness, and this guy came up to me, and he was a bodybuilder too. He goes, how does forgiveness have anything to do with being in shape? Well, you want to hear something? If you don't forgive, you isolate. If you isolate, it's a perfect recipe for addiction, whether it's food, pornography, alcohol, cocaine. And when you do those things, there's no way you could get in shape. There's no way you can focus on a workout. There's no way you can be disciplined because you're so damn pissed off at the world and yourself and the person who hurt you 22 years ago. Get over it and learn from it. And I'm saying that coming from a source of love. It took me almost 20 years, 2 decades, to forgive a man who beat the daylights out of us, hurt us. And here I'm saying that I believe in God, and yet I was so darn upset with my father on how he betrayed and cheated on my mother and beat all 3 of us up. The collateral damage, the generational curse that goes along with that, only God himself can break those chains. And I am so blessed. I am so favored. We are, that God has intervened and was able to break that spiritual warfare, break that generational curse. I've never laid my hands on a woman. I've never laid my hands on my children, because the biggest lesson I learned from my dad was what not to be like in a man. And it has everything to do with I needed to forgive him, but then God needed to teach me about character, about integrity, and most importantly, about love. Because at the end of the day, it's about being loved and loving. And I'm sorry that I'm so passionate about this today.
You know, for a lot of years, I used to have reoccurring nightmares and such anxiety and stress because I was holding on to all the bad things that had happened to me in my life. And you're 100% right when you say you try and mask it or cover it up and just push it down and make it go away, whether it's with medication or drinking too much, and then you find yourself lashing out at those around you because maybe triggers are hit. Something innocently said in passing triggers something that you're still holding on to. You can find yourself destroying relationships with people around you, and it really,
and a lot has
it's so detrimental to your health, your mental health, your emotional health.
Oh my God, your spiritual health. So many times in life, people will, what she just said is spot on. I did it when I was younger. I got so, put it this way, if I couldn't trust my dad and I had this forgiveness problem, in any relationship that I was going to try to relinquish my own heart, to be vulnerable. If I felt anything possibly that was untrusting, or I would blow up the bridge before that person hurt me. Or I would say stuff because the person, as you said, there was a trigger. And that trigger reminded me of the hurt. When I was young, I thought love was hurt. Who wanted that? I mean, I put God in a box. And I just feel like we're talking to somebody, or talking to many people right now today, that you may have the nice house and you may have the nice clothes and you may have the nice career, but you are in torment. You are spiritually in torment because of not forgiving someone. And if that person has passed over, if that person has left you and your children, and you've never seen them for years, you need to soul search and forgive, relinquish that emotional debt, let it take you out of your own prison. It's not doing anything for them. They've already moved on. You're still stuck. There's no relationship, like you said. Even growing up your children, you won't believe on how healthy. When you're stressed, when you don't forgive, you have more cortisol, which is a fight or flight hormone in your body, and it releases another substance, an enzyme called homocysteine, which causes inflammation on your entire body, cancer, havoc, heart attack, stroke, tumors. All I can say is that when I relinquish that emotional debt in any situation in my life to forgive, I get peace from the Prince of Peace, because I'm not going to lower myself to the level of maybe what somebody said or did to me. I used to, but two wrongs don't make a right. And in my world, if someone did me wrong, I would end up lowering myself lower than them, doing worse. And then a day or two later, they should have been apologizing to me, but I was just as wrong or wrong, more wrong. And I would be the one apologizing, and we never, ever got anything accomplished. We never got to the real cause of the person saying this to me or lying to me or whatever, stealing from me, cheating on me, whatever. I freaked out emotionally, did not have that 5 second, did not give it to God. And I just need to share this. I will not say the names to protect the guilty. But I had a family situation that there was some lies. And it devastated me. It was in my immediate family with my children. And I just remember my family member came clean and said they apologize and they're sorry. But I caught them red-handed. I was traveling to Florida to go visit this family member with another person that they were with. And I remember I had a driver at the time, and I'm pulling in front of a restaurant. And as I was getting out of the restaurant, God said to me, "Don't you dare, don't you dare bring it up. I'm giving you grace on top of grace, on top of grace, on top of grace, your entire life. You walk in this restaurant and you hug them. You don't expect an apology. You don't ask for it. You don't speak it." As I walked through the doors of that restaurant and I saw them and I walked to the table, I had just this amazing grace come over me. And I hugged the both of them, and they both looked at each other like I was a Martian, like I had three heads. The relationship flourished to this day. To one of the best relationships I have. And what I'm trying to say to each and every one of you, and I'm sorry I'm not talking about nutrition today. I'm sorry I'm not talking about fall vegetables and stuff. We'll be talking about that next week. But this is so important, because if you don't take care of the inside, nothing on the outside, you're not going to reach the mark. You're not going to have the relationship you want. You're not going to have the health you want. All I can say is that when you forgive somebody, you let it go. When God forgives you, he says, "I forgive you, I forget it as far as the east is to the west." Let it go. It's a new day. And then give that person grace. And if that person's not around, forgive that person. Let it set you free, unprison you, and live the life that you're destined to live. Right, babe?
There's nothing else that you can do. If you choose to be happy, regardless of what's happening around you, it's a choice, and it just really releases you, relinquishing all the power that they have,
And you,
or forgiving yourself.
right, and you are a
We all
living
make
example. You demonstrate that every day. And one of the reasons why I love this woman so much, she's always smiling. She's always open and available to help other people. And one day I'm sure she'll tell you in length her testimony, but she has been through such trauma and such hurt and such betrayal and such abuse that how she smiles, she teaches me. And I love you for it. Can you tell people how they could reach us?
Yes. Boy, I need to take a
so
moment to
sorry.
pause after
Yeah.
that. We need some tissue back here.
Yeah.
But you can email us at peter@peternielsen.com, or if you have any questions or you want to share your stories, there's social media, Peter and Nielsen, and obviously we're on YouTube now. You could subscribe if you want to see more videos.
Yeah, I mean, and you could subscribe to the YouTube at Peter Nielsen or Peter's Principles. I mean, our life is just, we're getting into so many other beautiful things. Obviously, we're involved with a wonderful supplement company, Zervita. We're coming out with, I shouldn't even say this, but there's a lot of wonderful things that are happening for us with new products. Where we partnered with a wonderful skincare company called Exoceuticals that have exosomes in them. Some G Medical, put a shout out to them for medical testing. If you think about all the things that God has kind of brought into our path, it's all about helping others put more quality in your life. And that's what matters, at least to me, is that I want to make a significance not for I, but for we. And to be able to do what you love to do, and to be able to touch the masses, to put more quality in for you, to help find your purpose in life is what it's all about. But you cannot live a purpose-filled life, I'll leave with this, if you're unforgiving. You cannot live on purpose when you haven't forgiven someone that has tried to destroy you. Let it go. They're not worth the saliva in your mouth. Let it go. Forgive them. Even if they're not around to personally forgive them. And sometimes you will ask for forgiveness and someone is not available. The beautiful thing is God knows your heart, the way he did King David. And God knows your intentions. And we only get one shot at this thing called life. This is not a dress rehearsal. My hope, my prayer, and I know that Joyce feels the same way, is that we want each and every one of you to seize the moment of each and every day. But it starts and it ends with you. And no matter what you've done in your life and your accolades and your awards and all of that stuff, I want you to have peace on the inside. And to truly have that peace on the inside, you need to relinquish that emotional debt, even if it means forgiving yourself. So until next week, I just hope that each and every one of you have just an amazing week. Tune in. We're also, TV show Peter's Principles will be airing in new markets, New York City, Boston, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., and we'll put a link on where you can watch that. And we're just super excited for all the wonderful feedback.
Yeah. I think we should put a link up too for if you're looking for a tool that might help you work through some to the forgiveness and just some self-healing and growth. He wrote a wonderful book called Soul Strength. So we can put a link for that as well, and it's a workbook, so you actually have little homework assignments to help you reflect and grow.
And the whole chapter is on forgiveness. You can find that on either in my store on peternielsen.com. You can find that on Amazon. But our hope is that you truly have that peace, believe again, have that hope, and enjoy this week. God bless each and every one of you. It's been great to be with you this week. Bye.